You know the logo. You've seen the memes.
Trying to get my Carhartt jacket to look vintage.
Carhartt branding. Carhartt customers.
Thank you for changing my life.
I'm literally a hat.
To hear some tell it, you shouldn't wear a chore coat or double-knee pants unless you work on an oil rig, or know the difference between a hacksaw and a backsaw.
It's getting chilly out. Better grab the Carhartt. You got about 10 seconds to take that hoodie off before I call the cops. Everybody wants to wear Carhartt until it's time to do Carhartt shit. What?
Most of the blowback is all fun and games, of course, but there's a reason why the brand resonates as much with lava soap users as those who favor Aesop. Carhartt, branching out from dirty work to fashion, follows a phenomenon that's driven many fashion staples. A good deal of what we wear originates from more utilitarian roots, be it the trades or the military. Jeans are now eons away from being targeted to minors. Drake. While the trench coat has gone from ground warfare in World War I to the front lines of city streets. The type of workwear established by Carhartt is also quintessentially American, an aesthetic that's as red, white, and blue as the baseball cap or baseball, all of which are loved in Japan. Today, we're gonna take a look back at Carhartt's history and break down why the brand has lasted more than 130 years and is just as at home in an oil-covered garage as a wine bar in Dimes Square. Welcome to Speed. This is everything you need to know on Carhartt. Before Ford sold its first Model A, Hamilton Carhartt and Company was founded in 1889 by a man named Hamilton Carhartt. Ham, as he was known, first left school to start a wholesale furniture business. Then he pivoted to workwear, and after struggling initially, began to see success when he applied feedback from railroad workers to his bib overalls. If there's one thing I always say, if a railroad worker gives you feedback, you take it. They are wise men and generous with their wisdom. The second industrial revolution bore the expansion of railroads, large-scale iron and steel production, and a boost in manufacturing thanks to a little thing I like to call machinery. You ever heard of it? The men working these jobs needed tough, durable clothing, and Carhartt catered to them with its overalls made of denim and its duck canvas, which, contrary to popular belief, is not made of ducks at all. Now, this bib overall featured hefty triple stitch seams, rust-proof buttons, and extra strong buttonholes. But even with such beefy bona fides, it remained breathable throughout a hard day's work, which is important because there's two things I know about railroad workers. One, very wise, giving men, and two, the boys get moist. Work hard and they perspire. In a trade catalog published in 1900, Carhartt said of its customer, "The men who wear things of our manufacture comprise the bone and sinew of this country. Now, rough work, honorable though it may be, takes the life out of us. And the man who has been heaving clay out of a ditch all day, or driving an express train against the north wind all night, or holding a boat's helm at a gale on a lee shore, or whirling white-hot iron at a furnace mouth, that man is not the same at the end of his day or night. He has no time or inclination to study what he has to wear. He simply wants something to protect him from the wintry blasts or pitiless storms, or to avert the cold rays of a curious scorn." That's an ad in 1900. That same catalog offered 13 different options for apron overalls, ranging from $5.75 to $9.25. The most expensive of which was its ammo ski blue denims, made for railroad workers with a higher and wider cut. More fabric, more money. Also on offer at the time, a wide assortment of trousers and jeans, as well as coats, vests, and shirts. 10 years later, and just over 20 years after starting with just 5 employees and 2 sewing machines, Carhartt boasted mills in South Carolina and Georgia, in addition to sewing facilities in 4 other American cities. The company's business also expanded to include Canada and the UK, with France to follow soon. When World War I broke out, Carhartt offered its facilities to the US government to manufacture military garments. Hell yeah, dude. It was also around this time that the brand first introduced its char coat. After surviving the Great Depression and the death of its founder, Carhartt began producing its first cold weather apparel. But the more lasting development of this time was Carhartt's Sherpa-lined ranchwear line, cowboy jackets. Quilt lining was also introduced, which ended up being a major hit, especially in coveralls. For the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, a tremendously difficult undertaking because of permafrost and the remoteness of the work sites, Carhartt received its largest single order to date with 5,000 quilt-lined coveralls. Now, besides the overt boost of sales, outfitting the crews in Alaska demonstrated that the workwear could handle conditions just as grueling as any work. With nearly a century of unquestioned authority in workwear, Carhartt really began taking off outside of the workday or night in the 1980s. In Japan, which has long held Americana style in high esteem and now makes it more faithfully than most American companies, Carhartt found a lifestyle market for its rugged apparel. But even more importantly, a booming hip-hop culture took to Carhartt as part of its uniform. Like other hip-hop staples such as the Timberland wheat boot, Dapper Dan's famous bootlegs, or gaudy gold chains, the original influencers for Carhartt within hip-hop fashion were hustlers, the now brand-safe word for drug dealers. Carhartt's roomy cuts that allowed laborers to move freely lent itself naturally to the fact that baggy clothes were the style now. Plus, Carhartts are warm, which is perfect if you just happen to be standing around on the corners and streets of New York City in the middle of the winter. For no reason. Much like the music itself, Carhartt is gritty. Carhartt is tough. And for the rappers who weren't hustlers themselves, what the hustlers wore, they followed. In the late 80s, it was the likes of Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, the Beastie Boys. In the 90s, the adherence only grew. Tupac, Nas, Naughty by Nature, House of Pain, Wu-Tang Clan, Mobb Deep, and more continued the legacy as hip-hop grew in popularity alongside workwear outside of its intended purpose. New York favored mustard brown and hunter green to go with their Timbs. Los Angeles opted for darker colorways, buttoned all the way up to the collar. Key pieces included the Siberian parka, chalk shirts, Detroit jacket, and watch cap, also known as the beanie. If we ever make a Speed beanie, we're calling it the watch cap. Like you're out there on watch, you need your head to be warm, so you can focus on watching. Anybody see my watch cap? To promote its newly signed group, House of Pain, in 1990, Tommy Boy Records bought 800 Carhartt jackets, embroidered its logo on them, and handed them out to tastemakers. It's like the original influencer marketing, one of which sold recently unworn for nearly $4,000 through Sotheby's. Now, the designer of this hip-hop grail was none other than streetwear godfather Sean Stussy. Although the collaboration between Stussy and Carhartt was unofficial, it was a perfect union for the originators of streetwear and workwear, respectively. Two things that have been inextricably linked for as long as streetwear has existed. Now, Stussy didn't just customize Carhartt jackets for the record label, though. It also put its own embroidery on them for more unsanctioned proto-collaborations. Skateboarding, you ever heard of it? Another core element of streetwear also latched onto Carhartt around the same time period because the baggy cuts allowed skaters to move freely and its toughness could stand up to repeated confrontations with the pavement. Those guys fall a lot. And Supreme, the brand, which has had even greater focus on skaters than Stussy, has also been heavily influenced by Carhartt from the jump in its mission to create quality, durable garments. Founder James Pumphrey told GQ in 2019, "With a lot of skate brands at the time, the quality wasn't good. The fabrics were kind of crappy. So we had to make our products as good as the kids in New York were wearing. Polo, Nautica, Carhartt, Levi's. Our thing was to try and make things as good as the best brands out there, but not the fashion brands, and have the quality that people are going to wear these items for a long, long time." The dude has half of a British accent. His mom is British. It's a very hard impression to do. 5 out of 10. Chapter 3, Carhartt Whip and capital F, fashion. It's called fashion, sweaty. Look it up. As Carhartt was bleeding into hip-hop and skateboarding in America, Swiss designer Edwin Fay began introducing the brand to the European market in 1989, along with other American staples under the geniusly named concept, All-American Concept. Brilliant name. Carhartt Whip, short for Work in Progress, was established in 1994, the same year as Supreme, but initially as just the exclusive Carhartt distributor in Europe. 2 years later, Carhartt Whip would then begin producing its own designs. Now, if Carhartt proper just so happened to take off outside of construction workers and factory guys, Carhartt Whip was explicitly geared towards youthful subcultures. Whip launched its own skateboarding and BMX teams in 1997 when its products first began hitting stores. It leaned into the music scene heavily by sponsoring a number of artists over the years, including the legendary Funkmaster Flex's first European show in 1996 at Le Palais de Paris, and a then unknown Aloe Black in 2010, and Danny Brown from Detroit in 2016. Danny Brown from Detroit? Detroit jacket. Coincidences don't exist. Follow the money, people. Quit sleeping on it, sheep. For a decade, beginning with the launch of NTS Radio in 2011, Whip ran a yearly artist development program with the platform. And it even had its own label, Combination Records, from 2000 to 2008. When that closed down, the Whip Radio website sprouted in its place to highlight upcoming artists and record labels. These moves helped establish Carhartt Whip's credibility in the arenas that it honed in on, but the line also had to have the GARMs to back it up. GARMs being short for garments. I'm just using slang.
Oh my God.
They pared down the proportions of Carhartt's apparel for a European audience, less embracing of the baggy look, and incorporated a more modern and wider range of colors as well as prints. Now, of course, Whip would maintain the quality of Carhartt proper, but they'd riff on core materials and silhouettes with an eye for minimalism, utilitarianism, and comfort. Pre-washing reduced the break-in period required by Carhartt traditionally, and Whip would also utilize more premium materials and detailing that would be superfluous on a job site. And while its parent company keeps things in-house, Carhartt Whip is also where its collaborations are run through. It linked up with Bape, another brand that was started in 1994 at the height of its power in 2006. The list of partners that Whip has drawn since then is staggering. APC, Junya Watanabe, Vitamins, and Marnie representing fashion, Nike, Jordan Brand, Converse, and Vans for sneakers, Undercover, Fragment, Design, Pata, and Braindead in streetwear. As remarkable as Carhartt's evolution has been from a dude with a struggling business asking railroad workers what they want, to the subject of Vogue and GQ stories asking, should the wealthy stay away from workwear? Or, we're still in the era of Carhartt, bro. Garments deviating from rough hands to soft hands is a recurring theme in fashion, especially men's fashion. Serious criticism of wearing Carhartt without doing Carhartt stuff is pretty silly considering Levi jeans were made for minors, Drake, and now jeans are as ubiquitous as an item of clothing can get, with denim jackets not far behind. The military is arguably the largest single driver of civilian menswear, with its roots obvious in some names. Bomber jackets, field coats, aviator sunglasses, watch caps, not to be confused with the bucket cap, trench coats, trench warfare, trench coat. And what you may not realize is just how many other pieces trace their lineage to the military. James Thomas Brunel, the Earl of Cardigan, referred to as Lord Cardigan, invented the namesake knit waistcoat during the Crimean War in the 1850s. Cardigan sweater, turtlenecks were first made in the Middle Ages to protect the necks of knights from their chainmail. T-shirts were originally issued as US Navy undergarments in 1913. Khaki pants and shirts are derived from camouflage uniforms worn by the British Army in its 19th century occupation of India. Pea coats come from the Dutch Navy, the derby shoe, the Prussian Army, the Wellington and chukka boots, the British Army, fishtail parkas, the US Army. Even the modern suit can be traced back to the uniforms of Napoleon's army. Wristwatches don't come from the military, but only women wore them until the late 20th century when men realized they'd be useful in combat and finally began to switch from pocket watches.
Do I have a surprise for you?
What's that?
Can you believe it?
Were men to relegate clothing and shoes to their original, grittier, onerous purposes, they'd hardly have much left to choose from. We'd all be wearing bloomers, dainty ones.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
What's even funnier than trying to gatekeep entire categories of clothing is when people whose own style comes from somewhere else, and then they try and lay claim to that thing. Skateboarders. They wear brands influenced by Carhartt. But like a decade ago, they all became super vocal about non-skateboarders wearing Supreme, right? Punks don't like when people imitate them, but a lot of their aesthetic comes from repurposing military stuff as an act of rebellion. Actual outdoorsy people, you know, guys who like the outdoors, constantly make fun of Gorpcore, but Patagonia's first item of clothing was a rugby sweater and a fleece developed from toilet seat covers. Are you a toilet? No? Then let the guy wear the Arc'teryx. Everything is silly. Liking stuff is fun and kind of dumb. Fashion and clothes and videos and music and everything is just a vast ecosystem of borrowing. Nothing is new. Everything is iterative. Everything is a remix. Applications are constantly changing, and it's only natural to want to experiment. When you see an item do well in one setting, why wouldn't you want to see if it does well in another? Carhartt has hardly disappeared at any point in its breakthrough outside of labor, but its current upward tick has it higher than ever. Many people in the know predicted workwear would be next after Gorpcore's recent reign. An obvious next step from one flirtation with utility to another. The prevalence of workwear also comes within a wider resurgence of 90s aesthetic. And streetwear's rise from subculture to part of the monoculture has brought along some of the clothes that inspired it. Hip-hop, now the focal point of popular music, never abandoned Carhartt either. Eminem, 50 Cent, Kanye West, A$AP Rocky all helped carry it through the 2000s and 2010s before what feels like every celebrity has been spotted wearing a Carhartt jacket now.
All right, so what we have here, our next essential, a Carhartt jacket.
I've got these in a number of different colors. It's nice to have, it keeps you warm. And, it's such an essential piece for me.
Of Eminem's rare Air Jordan and Nike collaborations, the most valuable is the Air Jordan 4, made out of black Carhartt canvas from 2015. Most pairs were given to friends and family, with only 10 pairs going on sale to the public through an eBay auction. Buying them now on the secondhand market would cost you anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. Who likes Eminem that much? He's like good, but like $20,000 shoes good? That's wild, dude. Carhartt Whip has to have its credit too. You know, they played the overt fashion game and they created a halo effect that brought in the OG brand. Now, as much as all these factors have contributed, the most important just might be the most simple. There's an appeal to well-made clothing that often seems to win out at the end. 100 years of wear testing from heavy laborers has told others that Carhartt, quite simply, makes good shit. There's comfort in knowing that your jacket can handle more than you will ever throw at it, and you're choosing a chore coat with heavy canvas, a blanket lining, rivet reinforced pockets, and triple stitched themes for a winter with riggers topping out at snow scraping your car. But that doesn't seem overkill because it still only cost 120 bucks. You know what I mean? And you can buy it at Ace Hardware still. Carhartt is cool because cool people caught on to what hardworking people knew all along. Cool people influenced other cool people and word spread. From hustlers to rappers, from rappers to skaters, from America to Japan, from America to Europe, from Europe back to America through Carhartt Whip, from all these places to influencers, actors, and that girl or guy that is the coolest person that you know that has the perfectly faded, perfectly worn in Detroit jacket. And as far as trends go, you can do a lot worse than spending a reasonable amount of money, with the biggest risk being someone telling you that you aren't beating it up enough. It is not easy to appeal to a haybucker in Iowa and a creative director in Brooklyn without isolating one of them or the other or both. And if somehow you were to start out with that goal in mind, there is no way that that would ever work. Yet somehow, both accidentally and on purpose, that's exactly what Carhartt has done. I just want to take a second to thank you guys for all of the support that you've shown us already. It is scary starting a new thing, scarier than I thought it would even be. But knowing that you guys are willing to come along and give us a chance makes it a lot less scary and a lot more fun. So thank you. Please subscribe if you haven't. We've got a lot of really fun stuff coming up. We've been making plans. Just like with Donut, we're gonna start out doing videos like this where I tell the history of stuff. Let me know in the comments what you want me to cover. And pretty soon, we're gonna expand into new formats, new shows, if you will. We're gonna get out into the world. We're gonna get my hands on stuff, touch some grass, and kick some ass. So, this is just the beginning. I am so glad that you guys are here. Let's do it. Speed. Not the drug, the videos. I love you!
9 to 5 was my dad's advice. Don't think